Music ringouts are an awesome editing technique. Check this out.
So you can do something about it now, or live with it forever.
This could get messy.
No shit.
That's a music ringout. You're going to need to learn how to do this, because as an editor, you need to fill your bag of tricks with storytelling tools. So why this tool? Well, do you hear that? I stopped the music, it's now quiet. There's some importance in this moment, whether or not you actually care about what I'm about to teach you. A music ringout can be used to emphasize a moment like this, and it can also be a great way to break up ideas and also to change music cues. Today, we're going to learn how to make this in Adobe Premiere Pro so that you can use this technique in your own edits. All right, without further ado, let's get to the logo. The editor's toolkit includes an arsenal of tricks. You've seen them everywhere, whether it's the famous wipe used liberally all throughout Star Wars, or a simple cut to black at the most inopportune moment.
Don't stop.
There are countless ways that an editor can affect the storytelling of a film. I recently rewatched the 1996 Mission Impossible film, where I noticed how a clever edit helped divide an action scene using a punchy comedic moment. This cut is especially effective because it helps separate the exterior visual effects sequence from the tunnel visual effects sequence. But it also creates a clear dividing line between the moments and allows the film to ramp up tension as we wonder what happened to the helicopter for a brief moment. One trick that's used often, mostly in movie trailers, is just one such way that an editor can bring their own creative energy to a project. And that trick has nothing to do with cutting picture. It's all about cutting sound design, and specifically how you handle music. And that's where music ringouts come in, which works similarly to the Mission Impossible example, except entirely with sound design and music. A music ringout can forcibly stop a music track wherever you want. It can break it up to leave room for emphasis, and then come back into that music track to continue with the next moment. Take a listen to this trailer for the upcoming movie 28 Years Later.
Boom, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the wall.
You can hear the vocals playing a poetic recording with some ambient music underneath it, but the last word is cut off and it echoes into the distance. This type of effect is hidden all throughout movie trailers and other promotional pieces, like here in the Minecraft movie trailer.
Elytra wingsuits. Bye-bye. Those things work, right? Absolutely.
So let's take a look at how you can build this effect for yourself. I'm going to hand it off to Brian to show us how to create this in Adobe Premiere Pro.
Now, I'm here to walk you through the two different ways that we can make music ringouts inside of Premiere. Now, I say that there's two ways because I have two really interesting methods to show you. One of them involves nests, and one of them involves track-wide effects. So let's break down the first method. We're going to talk about using nests to make your music ringout. So what I have here is a music file that I've downloaded from Alibi Music Library, and I've made some markers on the file to let me know how to actually make this lesson for you. So I've made a marker for where I'm going to start and a marker where I want to create the ringout. Let me go ahead and just make an in point here at the start, and then go to the ringout, and I'll make an out point at the end of this. And we're going to bring this into our timeline. With audio only files in the source monitor, you want to grab the little audio icon here and drag the audio only down, just like this. Alternatively, you could use track targeting by having the A1 targeted to the A1 track, and then use either your shortcut keys or the buttons here for insert or overwrite. So just to show you that really quick, let's push insert, and same thing happens. So a quick little shortcut for while you're editing. Okay, now let's go ahead and play this piece of music so you know what we're listening to. Okay, so what I want to do here is take this beat right here and have it ring out into some silence. Then I might do a little bit of something, and then come back into a different part of the music, because this part of the music is actually very repetitive. So here's how we're going to go about doing that. I'm going to go ahead and grab the razor tool here, or push C on my keyboard, and then make a cut point right here where I placed my marker. I'm cutting right before the beat happens. I'm going to hold Alt or Option, click and drag this down to the next track. Now you'll see here where I made this cut point, there are two little white tally marks on the left and right side of the cut, just like that. If you don't see those on yours, come over to the wrench icon and say Show Through Edits. What this means is that on the left side and on the right side of this edit point, the frames belong next to each other. So I can actually click on this edit point and simply push the backspace or delete key to get rid of it. Okay, so now we're going to take this extra copy that I just grabbed, and I'm going to make another copy of it by holding Alt or Option, clicking and dragging all the way to the right here. Then I'm going to select both of these, right click, and say Nest. Then go ahead and click OK. And to stay nice and organized, take your nest and make sure you put it in a folder called Nests inside your Sequences folder or whatever you're using for organization. Just keep your project panel nice and clean. All right, let's double click on the nest here. And inside of the nest, I'm going to right click on this second copy and uncheck the Enable button. This will make it so that as I play it back, nothing happens. Okay, so dead silent, which is what we want. And all we're trying to do with this clip here is extend the length of the nest. Otherwise, the nest would end where the last clip appears, which would be right here if there was nothing here. Okay, so now with the ring out, I'm going to go ahead and shorten this clip a little bit and get it to the point where if I were to expand Audio 2 here to make it easier to see, I can click on this little fade icon and drag to the left and then drag downwards like this so that I'm fading out quickly to nothingness right after the beat. I'm going to push play so you can hear what this sounds like. Okay, so all I want to do is take the beat here and have it ring out. So I'm going to just drag this to the right, maybe one frame. And that should be good. Now, back to our main editing sequence. Let's also fade out the end of this clip. So similar concept, fade this out, drag this down just a little bit so it fades out quickly to become silent. Now on the second clip here, we're going to add an effect. Come over to your Effects panel and type in Studio Reverb. And you're going to find the Studio Reverb effect under Audio Effects and Reverb. Click and drag that onto your clip. Then we're going to go ahead and select our clip, open up the Effect Controls panel, we'll see the Studio Reverb, and click Edit under the Custom Setup. Now for me, I find that the easiest thing to do is to start with a preset. So I'm going to choose from the preset list the Great Hall. I find this works really well. Let's listen to how that sounds, first by soloing audio track number 2, then we'll push play and take a listen. Okay, pretty good so far. Nice little ring out right there. Let's make it a little bit better. So I'm going to click on this again. It'll pull back up the effect. And in my testing here, I found that the following settings worked really well for this song. I set the room size to be larger, so it lasts a little bit longer, and the decay also to 9300, which made it last even longer. The width was at 92 for me, and I lowered the diffusion to 35%. And finally, under the output level, dry and wet settings, I set the wet up to 82. And let's take a listen to that now. Okay, very cool. So we have a ring out already built. Let me go ahead and play it with the other audio track as well so you can hear what happens. And this is where we get into some fine tuning. So for example, I'm hearing a little too much of the music still playing here. I can even take this fade out, make it a little bit shorter, and then end the clip a little bit earlier. Just like this. And then even go harsher on the fade out. And we'll play that back now. Okay, so there we go. We now have our ring out. Pretty cool. Now I want to show you another method for this that's a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and take this first clip. I'm going to drag a copy with Alt-Option all the way to the right here, and we're going to work in the same timeline. Just for demonstration purposes, you're going to see both of these, but you don't have to do both when you're actually editing. It's just two different preferences for the ways to accomplish almost the exact same thing. So I'm going to come over here and just repeat a lot of the same steps that we did before. I'm going to make a cut right here by pushing C for the razor tool, making a cut at my playhead, and then drag with Alt-Option down to audio track number 3 this time. Get rid of the unnecessary cut point. And then at the beginning of this clip, I'm just going to go ahead and add a 2-frame crossfade, maybe come back 1 frame here, so we're not just sharply going into this here. Now I'm going to open up something called the Audio Track Mixer. Come up to the Window menu, over to Audio Track Mixer, and open up the sequence that you're working in right now. All right, so here we have the Audio Track Mixer. Now yours might look a little bit different from mine. Yours might look like this, where all you see are the meters, but you don't see those gray boxes up there. If you don't see the gray boxes, on the top left corner, sort of obscurely hidden, is a little arrow. If you click on that, there we go. Here, these are the FX boxes, so you can add effects directly to a track. It'll impact every clip on that track. So what I'm going to do here is on audio track number 3, where I've placed my clip, is I'm going to go ahead and at the very, very top, if I hover, I'm sort of highlighting this top box, and to the right is a drop-down arrow. I'm going to click on Effect Selection, come down to Reverb, and choose the Studio Reverb. Now by double-clicking on the Studio Reverb, it'll open up a panel with that same effect. Let me go ahead and zoom out here a little bit and click on my nest. And that will also open an instance of the effect where I can basically copy the values. So the preset was Great Hall, and then just go ahead and copy all of these values really quickly. And those match up very nicely. So if I go ahead and click Close to both of these, one more thing I have to do is just have the ability to keep playing forwards in time on my timeline using any sort of dummy clip, or just grabbing this and just moving it even further down the timeline. So just so that the playhead will play forwards and we can actually hear the reverb. So let me go back a little bit and push play, and you're going to hear this clip play and then this clip play, and you're going to hear this track-wide studio reverb effect impacting this clip. Now, before we go forward into creating the rest of this ring out, I want to talk about why I just did what we did and demonstrated these two different methods. So in the first method here, I have this nest that I created, and that was great. It works perfectly. The problem is that if I had to do this a lot of times in my editing sequence, I would end up with a lot of nests. I'd have to create the nest each time, do that duplicating of the clip multiple times, disabling the clip inside the nest, applying the effect to the nest, copying the effect from this nest and pasting it onto this other nest, and it could take a while if I had to do a lot of it. So for convenience factor, I made one that just attacks the entire track. So if I had to do this often throughout the entirety of my cut, I could simply make a cut right here and drag a copy down, and we would be off to the races as far as the ring out goes. The other problem is that with the nest here, if you notice, I don't see any waveforms. This is just a function of there being modifications of the clips inside the nest, so Premiere isn't showing you the waveforms. In order to be able to see the waveforms, we can click on the nest here, come over to the Sequence menu, and say Render Audio. That's going to render the audio out for us, just like this, but it won't actually show us what the ring out is doing. So it's nice that we see some waveforms here, but it's not super useful. And on top of that, I just had to make some unnecessary audio renders in the folders next to my project file. They're not very large, so they won't take up a ton of space on your computer, but it is an unnecessary step you would have to take if you want to be able to see waveforms. Additionally, I sort of harped on the idea of keeping this nice and organized. Every time you make a nest, you'll have to move the nest into an organized place if you're going to be one of those editors who likes to keep your project panel nice and tidy, which I highly recommend. Now, in an effort to really teach you some amazing stuff while we make these videos, I want to show you one more little clever trick that I've come up with that I think might help you not just in this particular use case, but in a lot of editing use cases. So when I went ahead and duplicated this clip and brought it over here, I went over here and made a cut point and then duplicated it down here, made these fades. I sort of just redid the work, and that was just an effort to show you that this is what needs to be created to make the ring out. But there's actually a clever way to do this. So let me go ahead and select all of these and simply delete them for now. I'm going to select both of these clips, including the nest, and drag a copy of those over here instead. All right, so my first trick is that you can actually rename the names of your audio tracks. You can either do it here in the timeline or up here in the audio track mixer. So in the timeline, you can right-click and say rename. And I'll call this reverb because this track has the reverb on it. And just to show you the other way of doing it, I'm going to click here in the audio track mixer, double-click to select all the text in here, or click and drag to highlight it, and we'll type in nests. Then audio 1 is going to be music, and these other ones, they're a surprise for later. Okay, so now that I have this nest here, what can I do with it? So what I'm going to do is, with the nest selected and my playhead over it, I'm going to push F for match frame. That's going to load the nest into my source monitor. Now, on the left-hand side of your timeline are a bunch of different buttons, and one of them that may be checked by default for you says Insert and Overwrite Sequences as Nests or Individual Clips. If I were to click on this Nest button and it's turned on, you're going to see the track targeting here say V1 and A1, which means that when I bring this into my timeline here, it's going to bring it in just like it is right now as a nest. But I actually want to bring in the clips from inside the nest instead. So what I'll do is I will deselect this button. That's going to change the track targeting. Now A2 is not enabled, but it needs to be because if you double click on the nest here, you can see that our audio is actually on audio track number 2, which is the track where it was when we made the nest. So I'll close out of this, make sure A2 is turned on, then come over here to the source monitor where the nest has been loaded in, and then click the drag audio only button and drag it down, and right there are the clips from inside of the nest. So delete the unnecessary nest, and there we go, we have the clips. And the result is going to be the exact same. Let me play it back for you so you can see. All right, so far so good. Now, we have this ring out, but it's not that good unless we know where it's going. So the ring out serves a purpose, which is to get us out of this part of the song. But now what? What else can we do with the ring out? So let me go back to the actual clip here. I'm going to double click on my audio from the bin, zoom out a little bit, and I have a section that says music returns here. You can see that there's actually a natural ring out in the song, which we're not using. And then here, the music starts again in a different section. Let me play this so you can hear what it sounds like. So I don't want all of this weird stuff in the middle. I just want to have a ring out, a little bit of emphasis here in the middle, and then come right back into this big hit. So we're going to go ahead and just select the in point of my marker and the out point of my marker, and then cut that into my timeline somewhere in the music track. Again, I'm going to use a shortcut key, which is the period key for overwrite. That's going to cut this in. All right, so now check this out. And let's pause right there. This little dip right here feels like a good place to come right back in. So that dip felt like a good amount of time. This is where I want to have it come back in. I'll just drag it over to match my playhead, and we'll listen to it again with the ring out coming back into the music. Okay, awesome. But it still feels a little hollow. So there are a couple of different methods now for how to get back into this part of the music. One of them is a clever trick, and one of them is not so clever, but a really good idea. So the clever trick, we can actually take the ring out here and literally just reverse it. Let me show you how to go about doing that. Now keep in mind the reversing of it will be a little bit more convoluted if you use the reverb track. So for reversing a ring out, I don't recommend the reverb track, but in the case of using a nest, it's actually quite simple. So effectively what we're going to do is render out this entire nest, including the reverb that is inside of it, so that it bakes the effect into the audio, and then we can reverse it. Now, if you've taken our Art of Music Editing course, you will have seen us do something very similar in Avid, where you can create a mixdown of your audio, which is basically just a quick way to export and then bring it back into the timeline in the same place that it was exported from. And Premiere actually has that. So what I can do here is select this clip, right-click on it, and say Render and Replace. So you can see here that I have the piece of music, and then it starts to fade out, and then there is the reverb. And it goes pretty far, actually, so our reverb lasts a pretty long time. Now, this is an actual independent clip. I'm going to show audio names here. So the wrench menu, and then show audio names. And you can see that this says nested sequence 06 audio extracted.wav. Let me turn these off. So important to note that this .wav file actually exists somewhere on your computer, and if you're in a workflow where you need to ultimately be sharing your project or audio with somebody else, you should just be aware of where this is so that you don't end up sharing the project and missing some files when you transfer it over. So I actually recommend moving this file from the location where it was automatically created to a destination in your project folder architecture where you will be easily able to find it again, like a sound effects folder. So I'm going to go ahead and right click here and say Reveal in Finder. And I'm going to go ahead and just go up a level. And next to the project file, you have a bunch of folders like your audio previews, where we made that audio preview earlier, the auto saves for this project, and the captured audio, which has this file right here that we just made. All right, so now we can actually take this file and I can drag a copy of it down to audio track number 4. And we're going to rename this one as sound effects. What I can do here is right click on this, come over to speed duration, and simply reverse the speed. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag the end of it to line up to the very, very beginning of this right here. So right where the hit is, move this right there, just like that. Maybe add a little 2-frame crossfade so this kind of comes in without a sharp entrance. And then just sort of trim this a little bit because it's going to be way too long. So we'll go ahead and make a cut point. Let's say right about here. I'm pushing C for the razor tool. I'm going to cut, and then I'll use the nice fading icons to drag this so it fades up, just like that. And now you'll see there's a red line through it. That's going to require me to render this before I play it back. Fortunately, Premiere is super good about this. By simply pushing the spacebar to play, it will render it for me automatically. So let's go ahead and start a little bit further back and listen to this entire thing now. Cool, so there's almost no moment in here where there's actual silence. As this one is fading out, this one's already fading in, picking up the silent moment and then ramping upwards into the actual hit. So this is one clever way to use the tools that you have, using only the music that you have, to build everything you need to make an effective riser. There is nothing wrong with using existing sound effects to help yourself out. So let me get rid of this riser that we built. I'm going to delete it. And I have a folder here full of sound effects. I have this thing called Close Riser. I'm going to drag it in here, line it up to the very end, just zoom in a little bit and find the end of the riser, which is like right about here. And then we see how it kind of rises up. So we'll just go ahead and make a cut point right here, delete the beginning part of this. Let's kind of line these up a little bit, eyeball it for now, and then play it back and see how that sounds. Cool, I love that. Now there's one more thing we can do here, and that is to add a little more oomph to our sound design of our music ringout. I have here a bass drop, which sounds like this. I'm going to put this right next to the ringout here on another track. I'm going to right click on this one, rename it, and call it bass. And I'll drag this in using the drag audio only icon. Drop it right about here, just sort of line up the beginning of it to this hit, just like that. So it adds another layer of sound design on top of everything else that we're doing. Here's how it all sounds together. Cool, so never a moment of silence. In fact, I have one cool thing to even add into this to help you better understand how I was planning to use this. So let's say I'm cutting some sort of promo or trailer or some sort of commercial for Film Editing Pro, right? So I had Chris go ahead and record something kind of cool, and I'm going to drag this in here and bring this in right about here. All right, great. You can see some audio waveforms here, so I know where Chris is speaking. Let me just move these over a little bit. Something kind of like this. All right. Now what I can do is I can take all of my audio, and again, I'm just eyeballing this, and I can move it so that the big hit comes in right after he stops talking. So I'm just sort of eyeballing all of it based entirely on audio. I don't even see the picture. I have the video track minimized right now. I'm going to make this a little bit shorter. And again, just sort of seeing how all of the waveforms are going to line up. So this goes down, down, this comes up as he's talking. Maybe so I don't interrupt his talking too much, I'll even move this fade a little more like this and bring it a little bit more like this so it's quieter, 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 and then louder, faster. All right. And then just to clean up some of Chris's audio, I'll just sort of make a cut point here and a cut point here, delete these unnecessary extra pieces of audio, and then add some crossfades to Chris talking. And here, we're going to see with picture playing now, Chris is going to come in, and then he's going to say this cool line right in the middle of this music ringout.
Just like this.
Now, of course, there'd be other footage on both sides of this, but it would be cool if we were talking about something interesting and then wanted to emphasize that moment, and then come into Chris saying this line just like this, and then out into something very cool afterwards. So you can see the foundations of what we're building here. And you can even use other sound effects. So the bass drop is great, but chime, cymbals, bells, those are also all great things you can use. Think about the musicality of what you're building. When you build a music ringout, you are effectively recomposing the song. So as you work on your own projects, I want you to think about some of these pros and cons for which method will suit you the best. If you decide to go with nesting, the pros is that the nest itself can be repurposed. So if you built a ringout that you really like from a particular piece of music, you could copy and paste it anywhere else in your timeline and it would still work. So you could even use the music ringout from one song in a different part of a totally separate song if the pitch and the beat and the tone and the tempo all matched pretty well. So it's a reusable tool. That's nice. It's also nice that the nest can live on any track of your timeline. There's no need for a special audio track dedicated just to the reverb effect. The cons is that creating the nest can be a bit of a chore, especially if you need to do this several times in a video for different parts of a cue. And the other problem is that you cannot see the waveforms of the nest unless you render the audio out, which creates unnecessary render files on your system. They're not huge, but it is kind of annoying, and it is an extra step that you now have to take. Now, if you decide to go with the special reverb audio track, the pros is that it's much quicker to create, test, and audition different beats from a cue to see what works best. No need to nest and copy and paste an effect, and then nest again to try a different part of the cue. You can just start making cuts, dropping them onto the track, soloing the track, and testing them out to see which ones sound the best. It's also nice because you now have your own dedicated audio track, so it's visually easy to see on your timeline where you have music ringouts. As editors, we think about this concept of eye trace a lot, and not only in the way that characters look around a scene or at different people from different shots, but also where our eyes are going in the timeline to best read what's in there. When you get to big timelines like these, or like a feature-length film, it can become very hard to know where something is happening. But if you have a music ringout track, and there's only a couple of places in the film where you created music ringouts, sometimes it's a marker for you to go, oh yeah, that one scene where the music ringout is, and I can easily find that by jumping to the clip on the music ringout track. So it's just one added benefit to having a track dedicated just to this one specific thing. The cons are that you won't be able to easily use the render and replace function to create an asset that you can then reverse and use as a riser. You would have to actually make in and out points, then render out that section. You'll still get what you want, but it's a little bit less convenient and a little more time consuming to do. And if you have a small screen or have a hard time managing many tracks in your sequence, this is going to end up resulting in you having one more track that may only have one or two clips in it. So if you're using a small laptop or don't have a giant size monitor and can't have your screen expanded to see all your tracks easily, having that one extra track might be a little bit burdensome to you. As always, hopefully you can use these tools and knowledge to build music ringouts in your own projects. So go for it.
Well, I hope you guys found these reverb tricks helpful. Give them a shot on your own projects and let us know how it goes. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey there. For tons more free editing training, head over to our website at filmeditingpro.com/free training. Here you can download free editing guides along with high-quality video training courses created by our team of professional Hollywood editors. Our tutorials cover a wide range of editing topics, like cutting awesome movie trailers, editing action scenes, how to work with music and sound design, and a lot more. All of these free guides and videos are available at filmeditingpro.com/free training. I'll see you next time.